From the show losing its spark after his departure, to fans having no reason to celebrate the 500th episode special without Gibbs, here's why fans are desperate for Mark Harmon to return to NCIS. Turns out, NCIS just isn't the same without Harmon. Are you surprised to hear this? 'Cause I'm not. Let's not forget that Mark's been the face of NCIS since the show made its debut, all the way back in 2003. So of course, news about his departure hit fans out of nowhere. In fact, most of them were hoping that as long as the series was going to be on air, Mark would be the shining star of it. One fan talked about how they're still mourning the loss of Gibbs. Yeah, it's that deep. And to be fair, this sort of reaction doesn't come as a surprise. After all, the actor was part of the show for 19 long seasons. That's some commitment, right? And it was his constant presence in every episode that made him such a fan favorite. His charisma helped carry on the show, even when other actors from the OG cast left like Polly Perrette. Through it all, it was Mark who stayed back and kept the show from falling apart. And you really don't need me to tell you that he absolutely nailed his role during all those years. It's safe to say that his exit has left a pretty big hole, and so far, no one's been able to fill that void. Fans have gotten so disappointed that the show's ratings have taken a huge dive too. To say that the series has been struggling after Harmon's exit would be the understatement of the century. After Mark left in the middle of season 19, viewership of the show went down immediately, especially for season 20. So much so that NCIS lost almost 1 million of its viewers. You see, the thing is, season 19 numbers were at 7.57 million, but season 20 only managed to hit 6.5 million. Yikes! That's a tough break for a series, especially one that's been running for so long. And it's not like the showrunners didn't try their best to avoid this. A huge part of season 20 focused on family. Right in the first episode, Parker's ex-wife was shot, and even McGee's wife, Delilah, was given a much bigger role. Obviously, all of this was done just so that the fans could feel some sort of familiarity, but it didn't help at all. Instead, the one thing fans focused on was that the production left Gibbs out of the opening credits. Oh boy, was this a scandal. The whole fandom went into crisis, and whatever glimmer of hope they had left for his return went down the drain. Not only that, but even the ratings for each episode went down gradually. So, after all this, everyone's wondering one thing. Is Harmon going to make his return in season 21? But before I give you an answer to that, let's take a quick trip down memory lane and see how Gibbs left the show in the first place. Most fans think that Harmon simply got up one day and decided to leave the hit series. But turns out, his exit was put in motion all the way back in season 18. That's right, it was actually Mark himself who asked for his character to be written out, and the writers started planning the whole thing right after he made the request. But here's the strange thing, the showrunners didn't exactly take the typical approach with his character. Instead of killing him off or just making him retire, they decided to make him move to Alaska, in the episode The Great Wide Open. McGee and Gibbs traveled to Alaska to catch a serial killer, and don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with the details of the murder plot. But when they wrap up the case and are later sitting together fishing, Gibbs basically tells McGee that he isn't going to come back with him to DC because he's found peace in Alaska. The whole thing is super moving, and the two of them even share an emotional hug. I'm not crying, you are! It's no wonder why Mark's departure broke everyone's heart. But hold on, guys. Since the actor's exit was left pretty open-ended, it just means that there's a good chance that fans could see him on their screens once again. But let me just say that if you were hoping that he'd make his return as a series regular, get ready to be disappointed. There's just no way that Mark will ever come back properly. But that doesn't mean that he can't make a couple of guest appearances throughout the season. There's nothing stopping him from helping out his old work buddies with a case they're stuck on, or even just having a good old reunion. After all, it's not like he's retiring from acting altogether. Even Mark himself has said that as far as Gibbs is concerned, the character is just living in Alaska. Could that be a hint for a potential return? You guys be the judge. Plus, if you don't know already, he's working behind the scenes on the show as an executive producer too, which means that Harmon still shows up to set. Of course, the only change is that instead of being in front of the camera, he's behind it. But if you ask the actor, he's never been happier. And get this, it's not only the fans who are hoping for a Gibbs cameo, even the cast of the show believes that Mark could make a return. That's right. At the Paley Fest, Stephen Bender, the showrunner, told fans to never count Leroy Jethro Gibbs out. He didn't exactly promise a return, but it definitely looks like the possibility's there. Binder also promised that even if Gibbs doesn't show up himself, his legacy will forever be felt throughout NCIS. But I can't disagree with him there, because Gibbs has done a lot for the show. Plus, remember when Mark left and Steven released an official statement about it? Well, I don't know about you, but it clearly suggested that the actor could make his return in the next couple of seasons. On top of all this, Sean Murray, aka McGee, is super confident that his co-star will come back. He explained that he wasn't saying anything about it because he doesn't want to give fans false hope or anything like that, but he genuinely believes that Gibbs could pop up somewhere. And if all of this wasn't convincing enough, Rocky Carroll, who plays Leon Vance in the show, is pretty sure that it'll happen at some point too. Rocky talked about how, as long as the show's going on, there's always a chance that Gibbs can make an appearance in it. He went as far as to even describe his co-star as the moral compass of the show, and claimed that everyone should have someone like Mark in their lives. So it'd be fair to say that the actor's really missed by his co-stars. But speaking of missing stuff, back in 2020, Harmon talked about how excited he was to move on. Yep, while the whole fandom was crying, Mark heartlessly revealed that he was actually looking forward to exploring new opportunities. In a special featurette on the Season 19 DVD release, he broke his silence, hinting that he left the series because he wanted to keep things fresh in his career. In the beginning, Mark felt like he was tackling something new every day, but after spending almost 20 years on the show, that feeling was long gone. It's no surprise that playing the same role for so many years got tiring, so you can't really blame the actor for wanting to leave it all behind. What's more is that a year after he left, Harmon hinted that his age played a huge factor in his decision to leave too. He explained that as the years have gone by, his character continued to evolve and get older, and he's had to deal with this change both as an actor and as a character. Still, he's remained pretty hush-hush about his return, but some fans believe that their favorite agent could return as soon as the show hits its 500th episode. That's some amazing news, right? The 500th episode of the show will be super special, so it'll only make sense to bring Gibbs back on set and have a sweet reunion. After all, he's one of the few people who've helped NCIS reach the height it has in the industry. With 457 episodes already aired, and each season having around 23 episodes, it's pretty likely that the series will reach its 500th episode during the 22nd season. Plus, let's not forget about the amount of fans that'll tune in, just to watch Gibbs in action once again. At the end of the day, fans of the show just have to practice a bit of patience, and trust me, it'll all be worth it in the end. So, there you have it. From fans having no reason to celebrate the 500th episode special without Gibbs, to the show losing its spark after his departure, that was why fans are desperate for Mark Harmon to return to NCIS.